Hey everybody, welcome to the West Dakota Dad. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have the time and feel compelled to do so, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, rating, review, or hit that share button. Share with a friend. Or you could even share via the oldest form of communication, which would be verbally. Actually, I think body language is the earliest form of communication, but either way, it is something that we tend to not do as often with the growing technology that's happening around us. It all seems to be via print, as in text or video or whatever. But you know what? Hey, however you want to do it, if you feel you want to do it, I'd be grateful either way. No judgment here. So yeah, it is 2022. We have successfully completed another year. And if you are listening to this when it is released at midnight, Mountain Standard Time, then my podcast would be the first thing you're listening to in the new year, which would be really cool. I don't think it's happening, but I think it's really cool. And actually, what's also cool is if you're listening to this right when it's released and you're on Pacific Time, that means it is still 2021 on December 31st. That's wild. And then if you're on the other side of the world, which I know I have a couple listeners out there, I don't get out much, and so I have zero clue what day or time it is over there. So either way, thank you so much for tuning in. It really means a lot to me. So yeah, speaking of 2022, a little off topic here, which I really don't know what the topic is going to be because I have a little script, but I think it's going to be a little off tangent, I guess you could say. My daughter, big ol' shout out, congratulations, one proud dad here, has just been promoted to the bigger kid classroom in Montessori school, the 3 to 6 year olds class, and she's not even 3 yet. So I am really happy, really pumped. And the other day we were just practicing our counting, and I asked her to count as many as she could, and she got 28, 29, 2010, 2011, 2012, and at first I didn't think too much of it. I was like, oh, she's, it's supposed to be 30, but at the same time I just was kind of listening. I was like, oh yeah, because that's how we say our years. It's 2022. So poor thing is probably going to be a little bit confused because when I was learning my counting back in like 95, that's how we started years, 1995, which vast majority of people already know that. But there's a big generation coming up that they probably knew it, but they never heard it because they weren't born then. So yeah, still proud of her. Hats off. But yeah, so today we're going to kind of do a little bit of a personal achievement day where I'm going to be discussing some personal achievements of mine. And don't worry, they're not anything super elaborate or unique, like, inventing a new form of sliced bread or, taking my small pretzel operation and selling it to a major candy corporation for, like $1.2 billion. Yeah, more on that in a little bit. Congrats to Dots Pretzels. So yeah, no, these are it's actually almost going to be more or less a book recommendation thing because reading has never been one of my strong suits. I've mentioned this many times over. I just never really cared for reading. I struggled with it. I was slow. I couldn't keep focused. But now that I have nothing really, a whole lot going on to focus on other than, being a dad and everything, I'm actually able to stay focused and in tune with the story at hand. And of course, I get to pick the books that I want to read and whatnot. So this all started with at the beginning of the year last year. It wasn't a New Year's resolution. It wasn't a goal. I was just curious. So I decided I'm going to start keeping track of the books I read in a year. And audiobooks that I listen to because I like to do both. And so I figured that I would read probably 5 or 6 books the whole year, about a book every month and a half to 2 months. I was like, that seems like a pretty reasonable goal to reach. And then audiobooks, I was like, I had Audible at the time. I was like, I get 1 credit per month, so therefore, probably like 10 to 12 books I'd listen to. So that's kind of what my mentality was set. Like, if I reach that, I feel pretty good about myself. So here's the grand total. All right, you ready for this? Books that I have read equated to 14. Crazy. I did 2 head explosions in one podcast. Oh my gosh. If only I had an editor to be mad at me. And then I listened to 29 audiobooks. I went from Audible, and actually my local library suggested I grab this app called Libby, Libby. And with my library card, I can have access digitally to all the books in all the North Dakota Library Association thing, including audiobooks. The only kick is, you know, if it's a popular book, they only have so many copies they hand out, so you have to wait, even with audiobooks. So there can be a waiting list, but that, you know, minor setback, you just kind of have to plan ahead and then take a number for the more popular books you want to read. But anyways, so here's what I have been reading over the years, or over the last year, I should say. It primarily was the Longmire series. They have a Netflix series, which me and my wife listened to, I think, 2019 and 2020. And then, so I was like, you know what? Let's dive into the books. I heard the books are pretty good, and yes, they were. And if you watch the TV series, all those... Okay, so it's like a sheriff mystery type book that takes place in Wyoming. And the episodes on the TV do not really line up with the cases, I should say, in the books. As a matter of fact, the books are way more complex and everything. Not to take anything away from, the cast and crew of the Longmire series, because I thought they did a great job at capturing the wittiness and the humor of the situations, and also keep a good mystery that keeps you on your toes and guessing. But the books, the long time saying is you always get so much more detail with books because you have so much more to write. Rather, you can have the whole story in like an 8-hour audiobook opposed to a 20-minute television show. So there you go. The Longmire, I really like them because Sheriff Walt Longmire, he is the sheriff of Absaroka County, which is a made-up county in Wyoming. But they reference all of the surrounding areas, like the Black Hills where I grew up, so I could really relate to the location, the climate, and somewhat of the culture that goes on in the Longmire series. So I really, really liked Longmire. So if you have a chance, check that out. The only book I did not get to is the one that was actually released this year. I'm still on the waiting list for it. But yeah, Longmire is a good series. I also read a James Patterson series that included Michael Bennett, which is New York detective, a little bit different route, but kind of senses in a pattern that I like these detective type books. So if you guys have any, I'd recommend. I'm all ears because I've been out of book recommendations as far as a book series goes. I also read and listened to the Ramsey books. I've been a big fan of Ramsey Solutions and everything they're doing. I've read the Total Money Makeover I don't know how many times, and I like the Legacy Journey, Everyday Millionaires, and all the books that they have, like Redefining Anxiety. So they have psychological, they have entrepreneur type books, they have how to win with money type books, and it's not real complicated. It's just, like a baby step system, and then just habits on how you handle your money. So Ramsey books are always a good go-to for me. It gets my nerd on. So, and then one that I discovered that was kind of unique was the 10X Rule. It was always one that was recommended to me on Audible, but I was just like, I'm a Ramsey guy. I'm not going to stray away from that because then I would have mixed feelings on, if they went against each other, what each other were saying. But I actually discovered this actually sparked my interest when I was watching this TV show called Undercover Billionaire. The premise of this show is this billionaire takes a bet that he or she can start a $1 million company in 90 days, starting with only $100 in their pocket in any town in the U.S. to prove that the American dream is still alive. And if they don't do it, they will put $1 million of their own dollars down to help out the community or something like that. And so basically what they get is they have to go undercover. So if they have a very recognizable face, they kind of get a little bit of a disguise. They can't use their reputation. They can't use their name. They get a new name with a little bit of different backstory. They can use some of their backstory, so they're not just lying all the time, as long as it doesn't give away who they are. They get a semi-reliable vehicle, and they tend to be a little bit more of a gas hog type vehicle. So there's that. And then they get a cell phone with 0 contacts. They cannot use any of their contacts that they know already. They just have their business sense and $100 in their pocket. And they get put in a place where they have no idea, they've never been to before. And so Grant Cardone was on the 2nd season, and they kept saying, oh, the author of the 10X series, this billionaire, started an empire, And I was like, 10X rule, where have I heard that before? And then I thought back to Audible. So I was like, you know what? Let's just give this a shot, because he was quite the character on the show and had a lot of energy and a lot of drive. So I decided to check out this 10X rule, and it's been a little bit since I've read it. But in a nutshell, he's in line with Ramsey as far as you need to stay out of debt in order to win, because if you're in debt, that means you can't move forward. You're stuck paying off to get present, in a sense. So get out of debt. And his big thing is real estate, winning with real estate, because the more real estate you have, the more rental property you have, the more like storage units or whatever, that's passive income that makes you money. And so the more of it you have, the more money you're bringing in to buy more real estate or whatever. And the other aspect of it was the 10X part. And he kind of explains it in a sense that people set goals that are too achievable, and then once they achieve them, they feel good, but they're not tapping into what they're capable of. So for instance, if you want to make $100,000 in a year and you make it, then you feel good. But if you times that by 10 and say, I want to make $1 million in a year, you're going to fight tooth or nail, and you might, even if you don't make it, but you might make $250,000 or $500,000, and you're definitely going to crush your $100,000 goal. So it's just kind of one of those things that kind of makes me relate to like when I was in high school and we did track. You're doing a 100-meter dash. Well, really, you need to run 110 meters, because if you let up before that finish line, then you're losing time. You need to run through that finish line. And so I kind of liked it for that principle and everything. And he had a lot of other tips and tricks on the 10X rule and versus like the psychology of it and everything and his theories and whatnot. So it was a pretty good book. I didn't hate it. I did like it. I'm not gonna say I loved it, but it was definitely a very unique and motivating book to read. Another book that I read was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And normally I don't really like to read celebrity books. I do like some history books and everything, but I listened to some interviews of him in different podcasts, not like interviews for the news to promote his book or anything. This is like, just two people talking and then a little bit about the book and everything. And he was, on the most basic level of speaking, and his way, I don't know how to explain it, but the way he was talking in these interviews, and it just made me interested in this book. And so I chose to listen to the audiobook version because I noticed that he was the one narrating. And so I will listen to it then, because when they have the time and they really want to put in the effort to make their book, and you see all that hard work, and then they also narrate it, you get those little subtle things that they put in an audiobook. Their character, for instance. Matthew McConaughey, when he would play the role of different people that he had encountered in his life, and he would give them this unique accent or the way he changed his voice for it and everything. It was literally, even though it was like I can't remember, it was a 6 or 8 hour audiobook or whatever, it was enjoyable every single second of it. And man, that guy has had some wild experiences in life, and I laughed thoroughly throughout the entire book. And yeah, so I would recommend that one. Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I don't think you'll regret that one. It was very entertaining. It was like one of your favorite movies, just keeps going on and on and on, and you don't get tired of it. Another notable book that I had listened to, again, because the authors were also the narrators, and they added all their quirky little side notes into it as well, was called Everybody Fights by Kim and Penn Holderness. It's actually called Everybody Fights, so why not be good at it? And if you don't know who they are content creators that do a bunch of husband and wife with kids, I believe, in their teenage years. But they do a lot of parody videos, and they're quirky and they're funny. They do a lot of videos that just revolve around family life and maybe a little bit stereotypes as far as like Midwesterners versus Californians or whatever. But they are very humble and honestly funny people. And they go throughout their entire history, all psychological backed, because they're big people in counseling and whatnot. And they go through all their fights they've had, a little backstory about them meeting each other and get married and kids and in-laws and, becoming content providers. And they go through all their fights, and they get down to every aspect and become, well, they talk about bedroom talk a lot too. Well, not a lot, but certain chapters. So, but it was very entertaining because they made it entertaining, but they had some great insight on how to resolve fights better and understand your spouse better and where they're coming from, not to be so selfish of, well, this hurt me because of this, and you're not thinking about, well, how come it hurt them, kind of thing. So very good. I actually listened to that one 2 times in a row, so there's that. The last one that I read, and this one I'm probably the most proud of, I shouldn't say read, but there was a lot of reading involved with it, was I read Genesis through Revelation, the entire Bible. I did it on my YouVersion Bible app, not a plug, I'm not sponsored or anything, but I really like it because they have so many different translations, and they have these things called plans, which help you apply the Bible to your life and just even understanding the Bible. And this one I did was, I wanted to read the Bible in a year, and it was with the Bible Project. They put together, at the beginning of every single book, they had a YouTube video that was about 5 to 10 minutes long about explaining what was going on, what's going to happen in this book. And longer books, they had sometimes 2 to 3 videos, and they kind of just helped break it up so it wasn't just like a 5-minute video. Well, good luck. Here for the next 4 hours, you're going to be listening to the Bible. Sometimes they'd break it up and discuss key words. You'd learn some of the terms that was translated from like Hebrew terms or Greek terms and stuff. And so they kind of helped me walk through the entire Bible. And it was really cool because you hear some of these sayings like in Isaiah and Psalms and stuff. You're like, man, I've heard that somewhere. And then you realize, oh yeah, Jesus referenced them in the gospel. And so you're kind of seeing this whole, from start to finish, kind of like, okay, here is everything and how it was just kind of going, not the greatest, but there was promise of someone coming, and that someone obviously would be Jesus. And then, of course, post-Jesus with Paul's mission and whatnot. So that was my accomplishments for this year, and I feel kind of silly, like, saying, oh, these are major achievements. I read 14 books and listened to 29, and I feel like the only people that would keep track of that and be really proud is ones that are maybe like me that don't read a whole lot, or ones that, completely blow those numbers out of the water, and ones that really listen to a lot, they're not keeping track. They're just like, this is just what I do. Like I don't keep track of how many TV shows I watch in a year or how many times, I wash my hands in a year. It's just what you do. So I guess you could say I'm kind of a noob at, being proud of something that I don't normally do into impressing myself with how well I did it. But that's kind of what I had for you guys today. If you're making New Year's resolutions, I hope you are successful. I hope you are able to change bad habits into good habits. And I hope you guys have a happy New Year. We're going to leave you off with 2 Chronicles 15:7. But as for you, be strong and do not give up, for your work will be rewarded. Yeah. There it says, right there in the Bible. 2 Chronicles being in the Old Testament, I believe. Oh boy, I read the whole... I'm not a Bible expert. Disclaimer, I'm not a Bible expert, even though I read the entire Bible. There's a lot of books in the Bible that were, not gonna lie, pretty tough to get through. Like Leviticus, I think Numbers is another one. Revelation was really wild. So, but you get through it. And there are some books that are very insightful and everything. But either way, getting off topic again. Well, on topic, but trailing down a rabbit hole. So that's what I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a very happy New Year. I hope the holidays were great to you guys. And get out there and enjoy some life, why don't you? All right. Thanks again. Till next time, I'm the West Dakota Dad.